Welcome! Hello, everybody! This is the first official episode of Hashtag Us Too. I'm so excited.
Oh, what's your name?
I'm Espi, Rivadeneira, and this is...
Elliot.
Yeah. So awkward.
So, welcome to our podcast where we're gonna talk shit.
We're talking a lot of shit. Well, maybe talk a little shit, and then we're also... Me and Jay. Let's talk about how we met and then like why we're doing the podcast.
Sure.
We're so awkward. We're like, hi, Mom.
Okay, so we met through comedy.
Mm-hmm.
We both do stand-up. And you, because I had moved here, I've been living here now about a year and a half. And I think it was like maybe 8 months to a year in that like we met. It was like still kind of during COVID. I did one of your like Sheep Meadow shows.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I was just like, who's this girl? She seems cool, but I'm like, I wasn't like afraid of you, because I hear that people are afraid of you because you're very like, kind of like, don't fuck with me. Which a lot of, like, I respect a lot of people get that, but I just kind of figured, because I'm newer to comedy, I was like, oh, nobody's gonna want to be my friend.
Oh my god.
I'm just gonna get up, do my shit, and then leave, because I'm still, like, I still am figuring it out, like, I suck, like, I'm not gonna get respect at all. So, like, I met you, and then I remember you, like, laughed at one or two of my jokes, and I was like, oh my god.
Because I don't laugh.
And then, we just, I think you, like, we were leaving a mic once at the same time, and then we just talked, and then you asked me if I wanted to write.
Yeah.
And then I came here to hang out, and we literally didn't write anything.
We just talked.
Yeah.
For like hours. But I think that I liked you because Jay is an excellent joke writer. Like I love, like she's one of my favorite comics, and like I really just respect anyone that's just like working. I feel like I do this thing where I kind of put everybody on surveillance because I'm so paranoid. I'm like scared of everyone, so I watch for like months. I'm like watching, and I know who's who. And then Jay was always like working quiet, and then I felt that similar thing where you and I both kind of do that. I feel like we both like watch people.
Yeah.
And then I liked your jokes. So Jay's jokes are very like similar to mine, I think, in a way. We both have like very dark comedy, which kind of, I was talking to Michael Good about this, and like I don't feel dark.
Yeah.
And I don't think of him as like dark, but everybody's like, you guys are all so dark. Like, I think we just have tough lives.
Yeah, I think his friends are all dead or something.
Yeah.
And he jokes about it. He's like, I'm next.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh my god.
Call someone. Yeah.
So I think, because Jay would just talk about, like, have jokes about school shootings and being, like, molested.
Yeah.
And then I have jokes about rape.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, oh, I like this person.
We just talk about what we know.
Yeah.
And that ends up being, like, really fucked up. So,
but I hate not talking about that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And you had told me, like, we both kind of started stand-up for a similar reason, where when I was younger, I just felt, like, weird and, like, I couldn't say what I was thinking. And then in stand-up, I felt free to speak my mind and be emotional or creative or whatever, and I think you felt the same.
Yeah, I was going to church a lot. When I started comedy, I was like, I started to feel like I had to explode. I was like, every time I like hang out with these people, I'll let something slip, and then they just give me like a blank stare, or they're like, are you okay? And it's awkward. Like, I don't want that. Or they like, if they care enough about me, they'll get really upset, and I don't want that either, because I'm not
It's so
upset.
awkward.
Yeah, so it's like, nobody's reacting how I want. I just want to like joke about it and move forward, but stand-up was like
Wait,
a way.
hold on.
Oh.
is it? Oh my god. I don't understand. It's like uploading for some reason. I'm like, why are you... I think what I could do is I can save it and then I'm just going to try and record from something more reliable because it just stopped. And I was like, is there like a timer on it?
Okay.
Okay, well we still have that, but we can still use the...
Yeah.
We have it from multiple places, so we're good.
Okay.
Okay, so wait, what were you saying?
Oh, basically, I was like, everybody gets sad, angry, or bored when I talk, so let me find a way for them to enjoy it, and I can still say what I think.
I feel the same way where like people would give me a weird look, especially, so I think like our title is almost kind of intense too, #us too, because I like just saying, like I think it's dumb when people avoid certain words like suicide or rape or like molest, like, because I'm like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be scared. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it would happen less if people were like open to having dialogues about that stuff.
It wouldn't be as dramatic, because like it happens all the time, but then like we sweep it under the rug, and then it's kind of like when it finally does come forward, it's really intense.
Mm-hmm. And I like feel like I noticed Jay like laughing at my really dark jokes, and then vice versa, where I'd be like cracking up at something.
And people would be
and
horrified.
everyone's like, and I hated, and I just sent Jay, it was like a meme or something where it's like, you say something horrible and your friend is like dying laughing, or like someone like starts laughing, you're like, is this my new friend?
Yeah.
Where you're like, they get it. But I hated like, so I was raped and people get so weird, like, I have been trying to get these jokes to work, and they're like not. Like I'll like just shove it into my set, like everything's going great, and then audience is like, no.
Why aren't they cool with you?
Why?
Yeah.
And I hate it. I'm like, it's so annoying, and it's annoying like when you go through that kind of event, it has so much, like you feel so alone because you're like, I'm not allowed to talk about this with anyone.
Yeah.
Like you can't. And I tried to write a joke about, like, I even called the hotline, and the woman that picked up was like, she was like, oh, why are you calling? And I'm like, because I got raped, and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, you're making me feel, like, bad. Like, she was so, I was like, did I not call the right place? Because you're so intense about this. I'm like, you should, like, I don't want.
Like, she should have, like, it would have been better if she said it was your fault. Like,
I would have been like, okay.
Like,
whatever.
At least she's, like, saying something as opposed to just, like, almost, like, rejecting the conversation itself. Shutting it down.
She was very not open to what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you've never been through this. That immediately told me, like, you have no idea how I feel. Because, like, me and Jay talk about this stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And Jay showed me, what is it called? Mysterious Skin.
Yes.
It's like this intense movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, everybody should watch this. But I loved it because it's really intense about these kids
being abused.
Yeah. Being abused, for lack of a better word.
We're like, it was great.
I wonder if this show is like gonna be like triggering for people. Would it like a trigger warning? I don't think, I hate that though. I don't want it to be.
Maybe this can be somebody's mysterious skin.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, like, you're witnessing something that is gonna make people upset, maybe, but it's good that it gets out there for someone who might benefit from it.
That was like, I told Jay, why is everything not recording? I'm so pissed. This is probably gonna be our best bet. I don't know what is happening. It just like hurts. But I was telling Jay about when I was like in high school too, I had a really bad eating disorder. And I felt so lonely when I was dealing with that. And so I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I had no friends, and I would go online and like look for people like me. Like there were like kind of like these websites where girls with eating disorders would like talk to each other. And then the websites would get
And call each other fat.
pulled down. We like encourage each other to like starve ourselves.
Yeah.
But that wasn't always it. It was also like people just being like, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered being like horrified. The websites would get pulled down. Like they were
Yeah.
constantly like, and I didn't truly understand why in the moment. I was like, this is like kind of helping me in a weird way. Like maybe it wasn't, but a lot of the women on there weren't like encouraging me to not eat. They were like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And I guess I can see how they don't want like young women to be influenced, or men, by like other people doing that, or, but I was just like, it kind of hurt me because I was like, I just needed someone to relate to so badly.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, it wasn't like the food, it was just my relationship with myself, and my behavior was so like bizarre with it. But I just had such a like emotional distress at the time where I just needed someone to like understand what I was going through.
Yeah, I remember growing up, like, I had been molested. I don't know how to, like, say it
You can just say.
nicely.
That's why I kind of want our podcast to be like, you can say whatever, and it's fine.
Okay, someone touched me. And I remember going through, like, school and looking at everyone else and being like, they have no clue. And then feeling this, like, chasm open up between me and them where they have just no clue what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling so alone. And I like realizing it later, like I thought like, oh, it's so terrible that I was molested. I think honestly, like the worst part about things like that is just that they isolate you. I think that's like the most difficult part of it. It's not like what happened. Like you can process that, you can learn, but being alone is probably the hardest part.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
It's like, and then it makes you so anxious and you just feel so isolated. And I was thinking about like, it's so strange to me how I kind of started dealing with the event, my rape, like 2 years ago in therapy. Like I never talked about it before. I wouldn't tell anyone. And I was embarrassed because I had a lot of very confusing emotions behind it too, because I had loved this guy. So I was like almost not accepting it for so long that it even happened. And I think like I'm also sober, so I haven't had a drink in like 7 years. So I always had a group. I didn't go to AA for a long time, but my first year I used like an app called Daybreak. It used to be called Hello Sunday Morning. And you would like talk, it was kind of like AA just online.
Okay.
And you could see people, like it had how long everybody was sober, and you could like look through. It was almost like you were like blogging every day about how you felt, but it was so helpful because I was like so serious about getting sober, where I was like comparing people, like, okay, month 1, how was that for everybody? And it was like you could see dips and things getting better and then dipping, and like that helped me so much. And in AA, they're like, you can't do it alone. Like you have to like kind of, they think you should reach out to some kind of higher power, be a god or whatever. I believe in the universe. But you need like a group. And I don't understand why like people who are molested or raped or even eating disorders, there's like such a weird stigma. I feel like there's more of a stigma on that than addiction. Like addiction is also like stigmatized. Yeah. But they can go, like right now, I could go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting. And with like rape, I'm like, why are there not groups? I should be able to go right now, especially because like, if you try to find a group, like let's say you are raped and you like right away you want help, it's so hard to find. Yeah. You can't just like find someone. These groups are also really difficult to get into, the ones that exist. Like I have tried and my therapist tried to find, I like never found one.
Wow. I know, I remember just being like, oh, there's nobody else.
Yeah. You feel so alone.
Yeah, and then it took that movie the Mysterious Skin movie, that was the first time I saw like my own experience kind of reflected back at me, and it was so good. I was like, oh my god, like I don't know what, because I don't want to be like, yes, because like, that's horrible.
You're like, yeah.
But I was like, woo. No, I was just like, even seeing someone else processing it helped. Because I was like, I'm processing it, I don't know what to do, and then seeing them kind of go through it too. Even if they didn't have all the answers, it was just like nice to see someone else going through it too.
It does help because then, I mean, in that movie they don't process it, but they were like, it helped so much because even me, I was not molested, but when, like, there are similar behaviors with someone who's raped. And I think for years until recently, and even people notice, they're like, oh, you're like not nearly as aggressive as you were like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I was so standoffish, and I'm very sensitive to touch, and people would not get it. Like, I hate, even if someone like touches my arm, I'm like, I will murder you and your family. And I'm so aggressive if like people hit on me, and it's very frustrating because it's like so extreme. And I have a joke about like my current boyfriend was like, I like you, and I was like, fuck off, and I was like, oh wait, but I love you. And I was just like,
I remember that.
It's so frustrating. And if like nobody gets it, you just feel so alone because people, it's annoying too as a young person where, and like in our society so much is so sexualized too, and you're like, I just felt weird, like I was like not having sex for so long too, and people would always be like, but why? Like if I brought it up, they're like, that's weird, just go do it. And I'm like, well, I have a huge wall. So it was just like very difficult.
A vaginal wall.
A vaginal wall. It just closed off.
I feel that way about being trans too. Like, I was alone about it for forever. And even now. It's
oh my god.
it's kind of depressing. But like, I mean, I've talked to people who are trans since, you know, I just started transitioning. But for the large part, I've just been alone in it. All my friends are like, you know, cisgender, straight usually. I have a few gay friends, but that's it. I don't have like trans friends. And honestly, good. They're crazy.
Oh my god.
I just like, sometimes I wonder if it would be like good. I don't know. Like,
I think that would help. For sure. I mean, because I can't like, I'm all like, I feel like me and Jay have the most lovely friends. I feel like they're going to hear this and they're like, they're so gay. But like, they're such loyal friends. And Jay said something one time to me about how like, she was like, friends like that don't exist. Like, you'll watch like a movie, or they like, I guess our friends do kind of remind me of like a sitcom sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, have you watched New Girl?
Yes.
It kind of reminds me of that, where they're like so loyal and just like they all love each other and they're very positive. And I think before them, I never had such a strong friend group, and most of them are just it's just all dudes pretty much, and then me and Jay. And even though like it helps so much, they can't really relate to us the same way.
No.
But I've talked to all of them about being raped, and like they're just so good at listening. Yeah. And being like, okay. Not like, and they don't make it weird. That's what I love about them. And they're not, and I think when I first started to become friends with them, I was very anxious about like, I'm always anxious around like new guys, but they kind of help restore my faith in humanity.
Me too.
In men. They're such sweetie.
In men specifically, like, I mean, I have my own history with like my biological dad, and then like from a young age I just hated men, which I think is part of why I'm trans, even though it's like stereotypical that my dad left, so it just fucked me up. But I did like hate men for a long time, and I didn't want to be one. And then now having friends who are just good men, I'm like, oh, cool.
They are. And I hate when so many people are like, you can't be friends like guys and girls. I'm like, that's not true. Like, they've just proved that wrong. There's so much respect in the group, and like me and Jay have like stayed over at our guy friend's house like overnight.
You just have to not be attracted to each other.
Which I failed with one of them, but that's okay.
Yeah, thankfully the hormones have killed my sex drive, so I can have
Oh my god. No, but it's like so nice to have that. And I told Jay in college I had this like awful experience. It was like a near rape. This guy nearly raped me in college.
Right.
And I ran away, and then it was a huge thing, and there were like police involved and stuff. It was, I don't feel like going into it. Everyone's like, this is so dark. But I had probably 2 best friends in college that I'm still very close with. My friends Lucy and then Sam. And we were like alone in college. Like, it was like just us. And I was so freaked out. And like, when you go through something like that, you're so like anxious all the time, like on high alert.
Yeah.
And
you're like in fight or flight all the time.
Yeah. And so, especially the like first days after, I was like shook. And I felt so angry and paranoid. And I had this like fear of just like all men. Mm-hmm. Because the incident happened with a guy I knew too, which I was like, oh, this was supposed to be my friend.
Yeah.
And it shook me up. And I was like, I don't trust guys. And I wasn't sleeping for like 2 days. I remember like just being so out of it. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. And I was telling Sam and Lucy, I was like, I just feel so anxious. I can't sleep at night. I'm like scared because it keeps like playing in your head too. Mm-hmm. And Sam was like, oh, I'll sleep over, because my roommate, she was like, she like quit school. She like left. So I just had like an empty bed next to me. And Sam was like, I'll just sleep over. Like, and then you can get some good rest, like, because you'll know I'm there. And I felt this sense of like guilt, because my gut reaction was like, I don't want even Sam around. And I felt so like kind of ashamed, because I was like, oh, Sam's like my best friend. And then there was this moment where I had to just like trust, I guess. I was like, you know what? Yeah, sleep over. And then of course nothing happened. He just slept. And then when I fell asleep, he left. And I was like, oh, and that helped me a lot, like rebuild my trust slowly. Because I was like, okay, yeah, I knew this was a good guy. There are good guys, like my dad, my siblings, my best friends. But it's hard. Like when I first meet a guy, I am very aggressive. Like that's why everyone's like, she's so standoffish. Like I'm just scared.
I'm scared too. I'm full of fear. It's hard for me to talk to people that I don't know. That's why I sit back and watch, and then I wait. Even with our friends, the guys, like, I'm just getting to a point where I'm like comfortable with them. That's why it helps that they're really patient. And that even if you like feel like because I'll feel like, oh my god, like I just made an idiot of myself, like they hate me.
Which is not true.
Even if you feel like you fucked up, then you just move forward. It's not like it's over.
No, they're very like forgiving. I think all of us, I've talked to all of them.
I hope they never watch this, by the way.
They might. They probably won't. They have their own stuff going on. But I feel like they are also very understanding. And I think what's kind of cool about our friend group is I think we all sort of were like loners at one point.
Yeah.
That have come to, so it's like a very nice group of awkward people.
Yeah, we kind of get it.
Yeah.
Loner's right.
I can just say whatever I want all the time around them.
That's how like, it's safe. Like, I can just say, because if I say anything in front of anyone, like, it's gonna backfire. Like, people
But that's not true. Jay says that and then is, I think, one of the best people to talk to. Like, one night sometimes I'll have people over for dinner, and I had like a bunch of people, and some of them were like newer, like had never come over before, and I thought you were like the best at talking to everyone and making them feel comfortable. And you're always like, I'm so awkward. I'm like, I think you think you're awkward.
Yeah, it's probably worse in my brain.
I think everyone does that too. Like, I've been trying to watch my sets more, and there are times where I'm like, that was so horrific, and then I'll watch it and I'm like, oh, it wasn't even that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Yeah. I listen to my sets and I'm like, oh my god, that was horrible. And then I hear people laughing. I'm like, wait.
I know. So it's like you got to keep yourself in check, I think. But I like that we have our friends. Okay, let's see if we have anything else in particular. Is there anything you want to talk about?
I don't know. We can just like... This is like our meta talk where we talk about talking.
Well, we can also cut it.
Okay.
So we can have a cut.
I think we should keep it because this is like an exclusive behind the
scenes.
Oh, okay. I don't know. We can talk about what's going on nowadays.
In our lives?
Yeah. Like right now, I'm getting ready for a trip to LA to visit my family because my uncle's not doing great. And I can't let him, I can't let anything happen to him before I say hello in person.
Yeah.
Because a call won't do. So I'm going over and I'll see my grandpa, who I haven't seen in forever. Ooh, this is the grandpa who I told I was going to transition. I wasn't going to tell him. I told my mom and then I told like an aunt and uncle. And then they start telling me, oh, when did you tell grandpa? Like, when are you going to tell him? And I'm like, why do I need to tell grandpa? He's just going to pass away.
Oh my God.
And then it doesn't matter, just let him live his life in peace. And then they were like, oh, I think you should, whatever. So I told him, it was like, I'm transgender. Do you know what that means? He's also Mexican. So I'm like, do you even know English? But he was like, yeah, I've heard of that. There's like different kinds. He knew. He was like, some people think they're both genders.
Right.
Some people think that they're neither. And I'm like, I think I'm a girl. And he was like, okay, well, you're wrong.
Oh my God.
And he's like, and Jesus doesn't like that. So good luck when you get to the pearly gates. But he also said something. He was like, even animals know what they are. But people, for some reason, struggle. And I'm like, Grandpa, animals change gender. So what are we? Yeah. They also eat their young. What are we going to do? Are we going to defer to them? I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to go see him for the first time since we had that conversation. So that should be interesting. I also like going to visit my family after a while because I know I look a little different. Like, I've been transitioning, like...
You look healthier.
Oh, yeah. I put on some weight. I've been transitioning, like, 8 months.
That's so crazy.
Feels good. Feels good. A lot of people are like, it's not natural. Fuck you. No,
fuck them. But I don't know why people care.
But also, I was thinking about that because a lot of the time people have arguments and then I'll be like... like
oh my God, Jay.
They'll be like, you're not a woman, and I'm like, touche. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that, so I think about it. I'm like, what would I say if that comes up again?
But that's not true. I know this sounds dumb. I don't know. I don't care. Not that I don't care. I care like how you feel, but I'm like, why does it? Let's say I didn't like that. I'm like, it's not affecting my life at all. I don't know. I just feel like, too, like, I've told this to Jay so many times where I am so particular about who is around me or close to me. And I'm very, like, private. Like, of course, like, on stage, I'm not private. But, like, in my real life, I'm, like, very private and quiet. And I have, like, a few close friends. And then, like, with my guy friends, like, yeah, they're my best friends, but of course, like, I would never change in front of them or anything. But, like, Jay has, like, seen my tits. But I'm like, Jay is a girl, has always just been a lady to me. And I feel like that's, like, the most important part is, like, how you feel. Sometimes, I tell Jay, I'm like, sometimes you're, like, more feminine than me. Like, she knows way more about makeup or, like, your, like, mannerisms are so feminine. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, Jay's just a lady.
That's nice to hear. You're also part of the reason why I transitioned. Because I remember when we were at the diner that one time with TJ, where I was like, I don't feel good. And you were like, why? And I was like, it's really fucked up. Like, it's really weird. I don't want to talk about it. And then you were like, just tell me. Where's the body? And I was like,
yeah, I thought Jay murdered somebody. I was like, okay.
Were there things we can do? Like, Espi told me she was like ready to help. And I was like, I think I'm trans. And then she was like, oh, that's great. And it was actually like the first time I'd ever heard someone say that was good. Because usually people, you know, like if they're, you know, libtards, they're like, I don't care what you are. I don't care what you are. But, or, you know, like I grew up with Christians, they're like, you're going to hell. So it was either hell or it doesn't matter. It was never, that's good. Mm-hmm. So to have like, oh, like, this isn't something like worthless or stupid. This is something that's good. Mm-hmm. That was like such like a change of perspective for me that I never expected. And I was like, well, if one person at least thinks this part of me is cool, like, then maybe it's worth exploring.
I think so. And I think, like, in the time that you've decided to transition, I feel like you're more, like, yourself and more bold. And Definitely. You just seem happier. And then even when you started dressing as a woman, you were, like, very uncomfortable at first, and then now you're like so comfortable, and I'm like, this just suits you more. It feels more you. Like, you've always been Jay, but I'm like, this makes more sense.
It like cleared some of the bullshit out.
But it is better because you're happier. And you can people can always I think I can always sense. I think you and I are very intuitive about people. And so I know when someone's like going through something, and I'm like, this is great that you just decided, you're like, I am trans, this is who I am, because now you're happier.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it just removes so much like like wasted energy and like bullshit. Like that was the part that surprised me. It wasn't like, oh, I'm happy or whatever. It was just that so much bullshit was just out of the picture. Like I didn't have to pretend anymore, because my whole life I'd been like, okay, like men do this, I have to do it just so people accept me as a man. And then now I'm like, all of that stuff that I hated doing anyway, I'm not gonna do. So I can just like do whatever I want. It's like a lot less work, and it's a lot just easier.
My mom, and then maybe we can wrap it up after this.
It's getting
well, just because I have to go to the mic.
Oh, okay.
But so me and Jay were talking about how someone in my life we think is a closeted gay. And my mother and I are very close now. And we like talk about everything. Both my parents are, actually, which is nice. And my mom brought it up the other day. She was like, do you think that guy, like someone I used to like, she was like, I never wanted to say it, but I think he's like a closeted gay. And it kind of relates to like what you were just saying, where there's no more bullshit. But I always believe if you like, I guess I kind of have, I don't have like a religion or anything, but I do believe in the universe or like a higher power, or like, and I don't think anyone's wrong in what they believe in, because they have such a different perspective. I think it's all true in a weird way, but I think like, where am I going with this? I feel like all of the belief systems, I think, tell you to be yourself. Like in Buddhism, they talk about the self being as important to as any other being. Like, you should respect all living organisms and non-living. Like, you should treat everything with respect and love, and you should also treat yourself with respect and love, because a lot of people don't love themselves and they're like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, you're also a living organism, so you should.
Yeah.
And I think for a while I was scared to like love myself because I was used to being depressed, and now I do, and I feel happier, and I feel like I'm more capable of making other people happy, just being myself, because there's no bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think like with the potentially closeted gay guy that was in my life, I think for a while he was sort of like leading me on, and it caused me so much pain. And like my mother was like, it's sad when you hear stories about like gay guys that have like a whole family and they don't, and it's like, that's heartbreaking for them, but then also this person that they've been with. And my mom was saying she feels like sometimes it's almost a little bit selfish, and we had like a long conversation about it where I'm like, well, that's so hard for them to come out as well. Like, that's why we were saying like people should be able to come out and just be themselves, because it's like now you're introducing a whole nother level of pain to somebody else by not being yourself.
Yeah. It's like complicated. Because I don't know. I think everything balances out. I have like a very like...
We should talk about that next time.
Yeah,
the balance system.
I have like this I think... So in that, I think of everything in terms of like an exchange. So I'm like, okay, so you're like sacrificing your own well-being and other people's now for what? To like create this like illusion that makes maybe you more comfortable momentarily because people aren't scrutinizing you anymore. And then also that person probably is happy too because like you're putting in so much work into this relationship, and that to them is real, you know, like they don't know what's happening, but in the moment, like you both are happy.
But you can feel when I think me and you are very in touch with ourselves, and I can sense when people are not being authentic, or like, I was just read this book Audition, and it's about actors and auditioning, and he was talking about the different roles, how like there's like casting director, and he was like, what should they do if it's between two people that are very talented? And if there's one actor that's like more arrogant or is just arrogant, he was like, don't go with that person, because he was like, whole productions have failed because for some reason an audience can't place it. Like, it might be a very talented person, but they just don't like them.
Yeah.
Especially in like plays and stuff. And it's just like, I think, yeah, like you can have like maybe momentarily you're like living this lie to cover up, but it all comes out eventually.
Yeah, it will.
So I'm like, that's why it's just much better to be yourself. And then when people have a problem with that, I always think now, I'm like, they have a problem with themselves. There's something they're not like facing.
They're like, no, I should be able to do that too, or whatever. Yeah, now that I look back on all, like I spent years of my life hiding and denying, like lying. It was just like everything about me, I was like, gotta go. But that is so hard. It is so much work. It is exhausting. And in a way, I thought I was helping other people because everyone around me did enjoy that. They were like, oh, like my parents, they were like, oh, he's cured or whatever. Like they were, because I've always been like this. But they were worried about it. And then once I started, acting the way they wanted, then they were relieved. They were like, okay, great. That was their own, reassurance. Maybe I did it to benefit them, but now I'm doing it to benefit me too. And in a way, it benefits them if they grow from it.
But you also don't want, there's like this resentment underneath.
Right.
That'll boil up eventually and come out. And it could be years before that happens, but like, I don't have a lot of time to talk about this. Another episode maybe. We could talk about like my family and I used to never, like I like resented them. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm just fully being myself and being so honest. I used to lie to them like all the time. And it's like the relationship is better than it has ever been. And I never thought it would be like this.
If you think, okay, so when I say everything balances out, it's like that, where like you're spending so much work to lie and it's fucked up. You might as well, if it's going to be fucked up, you might as well tell the truth.
Yeah.
And spend the work dealing with
And it was.
truth.
There was a period of time where it got worse when I was like, this is who I am. Yeah. This is what I'm doing. And things were like very tough for like a year. It's
going to be hard either way. You might as well be real.
That's what I saw this like TikTok where someone was like, they're like, life is hard. Like it's hard being depressed. It's hard being sad. It's hard like not getting out of bed, but they're like, it's hard. Like all of it is hard. Yeah. But wouldn't you rather be like putting the work into something to make it better? Yeah. Like some people don't have discipline. It's like, I would rather have discipline and that be hard than not be doing anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
fucking...
So be yourselves, and
we turn into like the liberal Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Get the fuck up and be yourself. Yeah. Be real.
What are your handles and stuff?
I'm _ J Elliot on Instagram, I think. Yeah. Let me check it. _ J Elliot, JAYELLIOT, 1T.
I'm at Espi Rivadeneira, ESPIRIVADENEIRA. And that's our first real episode.
Hey, we did it.
Yay.
Thank you guys.